Hello everyone and welcome. Today I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to color realistic shiny red hair with colored pencils. The page we're working on today is a little bit different from what you may be used to. It is partially colored and you can actually print it that way. I have never offered a page like this before. We'll see how it goes. It does come in two versions. They're slightly different in presentation, but if you don't have a color printer and you want to practice this effect on the same model, but a slightly different grayscale illustration, you can print this page. Both of these pages are available in the Collector's Vault, which is our brand new subscription community. You can join the Collector's Vault on a free 7-day trial anytime. And if you decide to stay and collect 4 to 8 pages every month for less than what you would pay for a cup of coffee, then go ahead and stick around. The Collector's Vault is brand new and the party is just getting started. Alrighty, whether you're working on my page or any other coloring page that features a close-up portrait and a lot of the hair exposed, I hope you will follow along with me and try this very cool and very easy realistic red hair effect. You may have noticed that we didn't start with red, however. What sort of nonsense is that? Why are we starting with purple? Our purple here is the undertone. And undertones are not always intuitive. I am not going to go into the science of color selection and color theory in this short little tutorial. I will simply guide you through the steps, but take my word for it. The purple undertone is the secret sauce to this particular hair color. For my purple, I'm using Parma Violet from the Prismacolor set, and believe it or not, I'm actually coloring on white paper today. That is right, and not even fancy paper at that, just regular old printer paper. And what we want to do with this undertone is get to a stage that looks more or less like this. Notice that I've added it quite freely, always following the direction of the hair strands, and there's more pigment added to the edges of the hair, around the roses, and of course you can see all the texture of the braid. This next color is what I call the mood color. I like to approach effects like realistic hair systematically. So for my first step, I did the undertone, and now for my second step, I am setting the mood. Mood is exceptionally important in art and especially in coloring. What is our mood color? Well, in this case, I am going for warm, soft, cozy, but with a touch of gloom and death. Basically, a fall color. Everything that fall stands for to me is going to be represented in the mood of this color. We want it to be like a wine or a plum color that we're now adding all over where we already established our purple undertone. Notice that aside from pigment, little is changing. The distribution of the color is still the same. I'm leaving a lot of the hair uncolored, and I'm adding these pigments stroke by stroke in the direction that the hair is actually flowing. Don't skip these steps. I know that some of you may have a pencil in your collection that will match this combination of two colors perfectly, but layering is extremely important in the flawless, smooth coloring effect as well. So adding multiple colors one on top of the other isn't simply about creating a new pigment, it's also about layering, and layering creates smoother, more realistic effects. Additionally, the new created color isn't distributed evenly. When you look at her hair, especially behind her ear and going towards the braid, you can see both elements. You can see the henna and you can see the Parma Violet in individual strands. So already there's more dimension, there's more realism to this hair. Only now do we come in with our main color. And for my main color for this redhead, it's poppy red. I am so in love with this pencil lately. Poppy red is my go-to bright, vivid color these days. I don't know why. I think it happened during the stained glass coloring course. Oh, speaking of which, both the stained glass coloring course and the watercolor effects coloring course are now available in the Academy. These are both courses for coloring with colored pencils, but two very dynamic and unique techniques. One that obviously makes your coloring look like a stained glass, and another that makes your coloring with just regular colored pencils look like a watercolor painting. Why do we bother doing that? Well, in a nutshell, so that you can color with watercolor in coloring books. Most coloring books don't stand a chance against watercolor and markers, but mastering these techniques, we can add these effects to any coloring page printed on any paper. And with colored pencils, we have a lot more control than we do with watercolor. So that's one of the main reasons why I like to do it. Anyway, swing by the Academy, check out the free previews for both of these, or whatever else you feel like taking this season. We still have a sale going on for a couple of days. It's gonna go on through Thanksgiving Day. And this is our Thanksgiving sale. The coupon code for that is fall24. You can apply it to as many purchases in the Academy as you like. You still have a couple of days for that, so check it out. Back to our coloring. Over here on the screen, I am applying this poppy red rather freely to everything. Notice that I'm still following the direction of the hair strands. I'm never coloring across the strands. And even though most of her head of hair is colored with this single sheet of poppy red, I am still taking the time to go over every single line, every single strand to add a little bit more of texture, a little bit more realism to this hair. And the only place where I'm going to leave just a couple of areas a little bit uncolored is this part of her hair over here. Additionally, you will see me bring in the colors that I'm using on the hair into her skin tone. You will notice me doing this a lot in all of my work. I often echo the color of the hair in the skin tone. In case of this poppy red, it's very friendly for this milky, creamy, extremely pale redhead skin tone. So adding it a little bit to her makeup around the eyes, a little bit to her lips, and also just a bit to her eyebrows and the tip of the nose, just because. Give her a little bit of that blush. I've also worked out a few of the freckles with this color. So bring it to about this stage and remember to leave just a tiny pool of hair uncolored in the middle. Now let's spice everything up with a little vibrance. For my vibrant color, I am bringing in a pencil with an extremely boring name. It's simply called Orange. Sometimes Prismacolor is just so boring with their names. This is like a deep, bright vermilion to me, and that's exactly what you want to look for. Fortunately, this orange is much more exciting in pigment than it is in title, so I am adding it all over everything that's red. Once again, layers, layers, layers. Layering is the key to beautiful, realistic textures. Never pressure, always layers. And once again, I added just a touch of this vermilion to the skin tone to make everything work together organically. Oh, and if you guys want to see the full recording of this hair and the roses and the leaves, the entire process, I recorded everything from start to finish, and that recording is up for all of my channel members and also all of my patrons. I don't talk through it, there are no titles, it's just a raw, uncut recording of the entire process. A lot of you find it extremely helpful to have that raw footage. So if you're a channel member or a patron, don't forget to check it out. And on that note, a super special thank you to all of you who support this channel. If you're not already a member, please consider joining. It helps this channel run. It helps me actually finance these projects and allow me time to draw more and more illustrations for you every week and bring you these free tutorials. Plus, you get gifts every once in a while. Now that our main color is established and enhanced, we can bring in some highlights. Now, I don't know what brand of pencils you're working with, and that is why we left this area right here mostly uncolored. Prismacolor pencils are excellent for layering lighter colors over darker ones, so I could have added this beige even over a purely completely colored red area. However, not all pencil brands are friendly in this direction, lighter over darker. Most actually don't work that way. Most pencils are designed to go from lighter to darker, and that is why I left that area untouched so that you can add this pigment without having to struggle with a perfectly saturated red. And if it's still not shiny enough, you can bring in a white Prismacolor for that final highlight. Now, white Prismacolor is a magical pencil. It will work over any brand of pencils and even markers. And the best part is you can buy them individually on Amazon. Everything's looking great, the color is just perfect, the shine is just perfect, but things got a little bit muted in the process, a little bit smudged, intentionally smudged, but smudged nevertheless. A lot of the definition of the original drawing lines has been lost in all the layers that we've been adding. So now it's important to bring in our detail color. For my detail color, I chose a deep burgundy red called Crimson Red in the Prismacolor set. The choices here are vast. Anything that's darker and more on the raspberry side of your deep dark burgundy red than what we had with poppy red. You want it to be stronger, you want it to be darker, but you still want that vibrance. And with this color, the step is much quicker. With this color, I'm simply going to go over the areas that are already clearly the darkest on this coloring, on this illustration, but also over the areas that seem like they need just a little bit more definition. And you can see it happening right here, especially in that area behind her ear, where we have all these beautiful strands falling one over the other. All of a sudden, it's like a photo is coming into focus. It's exactly why we need this detail color. But it's not enough to bring in just the burgundy. We got lots of detail work, but our contrast is still not high enough. So for proper realistic contrast, bring in pure black. I know, this step is very scary for everyone. But if you followed my steps exactly so far, and if you layered patiently and smoothly, if you invested in those layers of colors, then this black should be a walk in the park for you. And we don't need to add a lot of it. We will simply add it to the areas that are most likely to be in shadow. For instance, these tiny details under the rose petals, right behind her ear, and also all of these loose strands that are falling across her cheek. Notice the huge difference that this makes. It's like everything is sharper, everything is in better focus. It's a much higher definition image. So don't skip this step. It's extremely important. But once you start adding this black, you have to remain consistent. You have to add it all over everything that's her hair. And remember to keep the bigger picture in mind. You already saw me adding the same colors that I was using on the hair to the skin tone, and look how beautifully that works together. I took a little bit more time and finished up the tea roses and the maple leaves. Again, the full recording for the members and the patrons has the raw, uncut, real speed recording of this. I'm not going to share it in this tutorial because it's not hair anymore, but I did want to show you the finished piece because of that color balance. I kept everything in the same warm hues, and just like I wanted, this drawing screams fall, glorious fall weather. There's lots of gold in here, lots of red, and of course, those delicious peaches and creams. So always consider the bigger picture. Even though it may be tempting to add green to the leaves, pink to the roses, yellow to her shirt, unless you are actually following a predetermined color combo, I would advise against randomly adding colors that you happen to like, but rather to consider the overall mood. So there you have it. She is done. I think her hair came out just beautifully. Now, if you want to practice the roses and the leaves, remember that we did this during our last tutorial on these fall realistic leaves, the rose and the apple. So you can revisit that if you want to add this effect to the decorations in her hair. If you want to copy this watercolor splatter effect, remember that our brand new course on how to replicate watercolor effects with color pencils is already up in the Academy and ready to join. And if you want to practice vibrance and luminosity, consider taking my stained glass coloring effect course. Don't forget that we still have the fall sale happening. Remember to use this coupon code when making any purchase in the Academy. Happy Thanksgiving, happy fall. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.